Blade. 2 blades for the way up, 2 blades for the way down.
Their Ninja 2x2 blade cuts every blade of grass who knows how many times.
It's also handy that I don't have to take the time to beg. Looks like I did.
Snapper. Anything less just won't mulch it. Now pay nothing down and no payments until January.
The Remington microscreen shaves as close as the blade. Hold it. Remington's also quick and comfortable with 2 thin, flexible screens. The Remington microscreen, quick, comfortable, shaves as close as a blade or your money back. Atta boy, that's Remington.
I'm a smoker, but in my office, it doesn't work. No problem. I chew Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. That cool, clean taste fits any agenda. When I can't smoke, I enjoy pure chewing satisfaction.
World Day continues, followed by Day Watch after this local commercial break. Next on CNN.
For well over a century, the finest sewing machines have carried the name Singer. But it hasn't been a name you could carry. Until now. Now everyone can carry the Singer Handy Stitch.
Handy Stitch is the most convenient sewing machine I've ever used. And it's a genuine Singer.
Just thread it in seconds and away you go. The durable chain stitch assures a clean, secure job every time. Nothing could be easier. There's no bobbin to wind, fuss with, or lose. Straight stitches, curved stitches, anything's a snap with Handy Stitch. And it goes anywhere you go. Complete with battery pack, 5 mini spools of thread, an extension spindle, and all these accessories. It's a genuine Singer for only $29.95. Order now.
Call toll-free 1-800-257-1257 or send $29.95 plus $5.95 shipping and handling to Singer Handy Stitch, P.O. Box 8250, Atlanta, Georgia.
This is CNN.
Checking the top stories on World Day, the Earth Summit is underway in Rio de Janeiro. The second United Nations Conference on Environment and Development is billed as the largest political gathering ever held. The 12-day conference will be attended by representatives of 178 countries, including more than 100 heads of state. The people of Denmark are celebrating the defeat of a referendum on the European Unification Treaty. Backers of the Maastricht Treaty say they will proceed without Denmark, but support for the plan may be eroding. France is now planning to put the treaty to a public vote as well. Ross Perot was not on any of the ballots, but he did well in yesterday's U.S. presidential primaries nonetheless. Exit polls in California show that Perot would have beaten either President Bush or Bill Clinton in their respective party races.
Time now for the World Day Financial Report. Let's go live to New York. Beverly Shooks at the New York Stock Exchange. Beverly?
Good morning, Reid. U.S. blue chips are picking up a bit now after a slow start, but the real action is in the European markets. Denmark's surprise rejection of the treaty designed to integrate Europe's monetary system and France's decision to hold its own referendum on the treaty has share prices lower on all the major European exchanges. In London right now, the Financial Times 100 share index is down 30 points at 2675. In Paris, the CAC 40 lost more than 2%. France's DAX fell 1/3%, and Milan's MIB index dropped more than 0.5%, and the Copenhagen stock market fell more than 3%. And here on Wall Street, investors looking for a direction, they seem to have found one after yesterday's 17-point sell-off. Right now, the Dow Industrial is up better than 6 points at 3402. Trading volume is heavy here on the big board, 53 million shares traded so far. The other key indices are all lower as well. And more evidence the economy is rebounding. Demand for American-made products in April picked up for the 4th straight month. Factory orders rising 1%, that's a bit more than expected, and follows a revised 1.9% increase in March. But there is a qualifier. Most of April's demand came from the military, and excluding the volatile defense sector, April orders rose just 0.4%. Long-term interest rates are higher today. The yield on the Treasury's 30-year bond is up to 7.88%. Prices falling by 11/32. The dollar is mostly higher, up against the German mark and the British pound, but unchanged against the Japanese yen. And that's the latest in business news. We'll be back in an hour with more. I'm Beverly Shook at the New York Stock Exchange.
Some grim new predictions about the spread of AIDS. A report released in this hour estimates that 110 million adults and 10 million children will be infected with the AIDS virus worldwide by the year 2000. Now, cases of full-blown AIDS will increase nearly tenfold to 24 million adults worldwide. Researchers at Harvard's University School of Public Health say AIDS is spreading most rapidly now in Southeast Asia.
And still ahead on World Day, a vacation turns into a great deal more for three young men visiting a young woman in Israel. A look at the French film Pour Sasha, and we'll talk with French actress Sophie Marceau.
That's not some nobody. That's the president of NBC News.
You see, they want to repeal your constitutional right to keep and bear arms. Well, you can help stop it by joining the NRA.
For just $25, you'll get a year of great magazines and member benefits, and you'll be where all honest gun owners belong, in the NRA.
If you want to keep the rights your founding fathers entrusted to you,
The rights the Constitution guarantees to you.
the rights the NRA protects for you. Oh, now.
People are anxious. They have questions they want to ask before they see a dentist. That's why people call 1-800-DENTIST rather than look in the phone book. It makes sense. I can tell you how long they've been practicing, where they went to school, what special training they have. We have a lot of confidence in the dentists in our service. I mean, I do. I have to because I refer them to people all day long. You tell me where you live and I'll find you a great dentist. 1-800-DENTIST, may I help you?
People my age are worried about what's going to happen to them.
We're going to find added pressure on Congress that's going to happen as a result of an aging population.
The issues that we address are of future concern to everybody.
Early Prime, today at 4 on CNN.
William Gaines, the creator and publisher of Mad Magazine, died today at age 70. Gaines began his career as a pioneer of horror comics, but he became famous with the 1955 debut of Mad, a satirical magazine that poked fun at other comics, fashion, politics, and the movies. Its mascot was the red-haired, gap-toothed, what-me-worry guy, Alfred E. Newman.
Will it be the older Elvis or the younger one? We'll all know tomorrow morning when Priscilla Presley opens the sealed envelope and reveals which Elvis postage stamp got the most votes. More than 1,100,000 people cast votes for their preference. The Postal Service issued 5 million ballots, but it appears most were kept as souvenirs. CNN will carry the Elvis stamp announcement live from Graceland beginning tomorrow morning at 7:35 Eastern.
It was 25 years ago today that the band began to play, the band guaranteed to make us smile, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Here's Lauren Sidney.
In the bustling Times Square section of the Big Apple Monday, New Yorkers sang of tangerine trees and marmalade skies as they celebrated the 25th anniversary of what is generally regarded as a turning point in music. The Sgt. Pepper album, which took 700 hours and over 3 months to record, was the first rock album where each song worked with the others to produce a single concept.
We started to incorporate more of the kind of crazy life that we were living at the time into the music.
George Martin was the innovative producer of Sgt. Pepper, an album that featured what was then state-of-the-art 4-track recording, as well as the first printed song lyrics on a record jacket. The album, which both mirrored and inspired the emerging 60s counterculture, is still revered today as a milestone in popular music history. Lauren Sidney, CNN Entertainment News, New York.
Those people were shouting out the lyrics to the song. It was hard to tell, but
You probably don't remember them.
I do. It was 25 years ago today.
It was 20 years ago.
20 years ago today.
Yes. That's Newsday. I'm Lou Waters.
I was just a little kid.
Yes, you were.
I'm Sharyl Attkisson. We'll see you in 1 hour. Here's Frank Sesno.
Money order to Slow Dancing, P.O. Box 8250, Atlanta, Georgia. Remember, save COD charges by sending check or money order or use your credit card.
This
is CNN.
To our viewers from around the world, good evening from London. I'm Hilary Bowker.
And good afternoon from Washington. I'm Frank Sesno. Ahead this hour, Danes celebrate rejection of a treaty on unifying the European community. Are they dancing on the grave of European unity?
If there is a vote across Europe for a number of countries that looking to go forward, then the danger is that the whole European community will begin to unravel.
Also ahead, coming together for the Earth Summit in Rio. Outside the summit, a joyful dance of celebration. Inside, a delicate dance of diplomacy to orchestrate the steps needed to save the environment. And the enigma that is Ross Perot, an international roundtable on the world's view of the would-be presidential candidate.
And we begin in Rio, where a packed convention center observed 2 minutes of silence for planet Earth, then settled down to begin 12 days of meetings aimed at saving or at least cleaning it. It's the largest gathering of world leaders ever. More than 120 will attend the UN-sponsored summit. It's marked by contrast, though. Rich countries pitted against poor, environmental destruction against economic growth. UN Secretary General Boutros Boutros-Ghali opened the summit.
My hope is that what I may call the spirit of Rio, that is the spirit of planet Earth, will spread throughout the world. The spirit of Rio must embody the full awareness of the fragility of our planet. The spirit of Rio must lead us to think constantly of the future, our children's future.
Among the issues on the agenda, global warming, protection of forests and species, population control, and ocean pollution. We'll have more on the Rio Summit later this hour.
Denmark's rejection of European Union is making headlines. It was Europe's first popular vote on the Maastricht Treaty, which calls for a common currency, closer social ties, and a common European policy on international affairs and defense. Denmark's no vote has stunned politicians who spent years negotiating the Maastricht Treaty. And the future of the EC is now in doubt. Our coverage of the European community in chaos begins with Patricia Kelly in Brussels.
The barricades went up at European Commission headquarters. They were prepared for a demonstration by European farmers that never came about. What the Commission was not prepared for was that an EC country should break ranks and reject everything it stands for.
The
Commission cannot fail to say that it fears that this no vote will have consequences not just for the community itself, but for Denmark and the Danes, and also for the prospects of enlargement.
The Treaty of Maastricht was signed by EC heads of government in the Dutch city of that name after years of negotiation and renegotiation, which resulted in what is widely seen as a fragile agreement. And the architects of the European dream of political and economic union have indicated they're not going to give it up as easily as all that.
There is a strong unanimity in the sense that the 11 should go ahead without any hesitation to fulfill the objectives that they have set out in Maastricht. There is no room for renegotiating the treaty.
The Commission hopes that the member states, in order to attain the general objective laid down in Maastricht, will pursue the ratification process within the time periods provided for.
But legally, the treaty has to be approved by all countries before it can become law.
The legal aspect is absolutely clear. Maastricht does not exist anymore. Unless Denmark ratifies the Maastricht Treaty, Maastricht can never enter into force.
The Danish vote against Maastricht has sparked off what is possibly the worst constitutional crisis the European community has ever faced. But the Danish Foreign Minister Uffe Ellemann-Jensen says it would be an insult to the people to call another referendum in an attempt to get the yes vote the government wanted. If the other 11 countries do go ahead with ratification, which the legal experts insist is pointless, they could come back to Denmark and propose another treaty, leaving out the parts on defence and foreign policy which the Danes don't like. But that would risk other countries clamouring for changes too. EC foreign ministers will take stock of the options available at an emergency meeting Thursday in Oslo. In spite of the political determination to press ahead without the Danes, it's not clear public and legal opinion will allow the community to do so. Most countries have had difficulties with the long-term implications of this treaty, but for different domestic reasons. Now that Danish voters have stood up and said no, the community risks a tidal wave of sympathy sweeping Europe, which could drown the treaty completely. Patricia Kelly, CNN, Brussels.
Shouting, "The Union is dead," Danes celebrated the results of the referendum. Their rejection of the treaty on political and monetary union left European leaders scrambling. British Prime Minister John Major postponed a parliamentary debate on the Maastricht Treaty, but he insisted the accord should be ratified despite the Danish setback.
In the expectation that Denmark will in due course be able to join them, our partners propose to complete the ratification procedures. We share that judgment and intend to continue with the passage of the bill.
French President François Mitterrand announced France would hold its own treaty referendum. But even before Danes rejected Maastricht, doubts were growing elsewhere. Opinion polls show a general decline in support for European unification. In France, many voters are concerned about treaty rules that would give voting rights to non-French citizens. Germans have deep misgivings about the plan to give up their solid, stable Deutschmark in favor of a single European currency. Ireland will hold its own referendum later this month.
I suspect now that the Irish people will say, well, one little country, if I can call it that, has gone against it. All these big chaps telling us what to do, we're going to go against it too.
European boosters say if other countries follow the Danish example, it could mean the death of the community itself.
If there is a vote across Europe for a number of countries not wishing to go forward, then the danger is that the whole European community will begin to unravel.
And veteran Eurosceptics were euphoric.
Well, it's pretty straightforward, I think. Maastricht is in the junk bag, essentially. The Treaty of Rome cannot be amended without the agreement of all 12 nations. So it's dead.
It's not likely that the whole carefully crafted structure of treaties and agreements that binds the European community together will collapse overnight. But the Danish shock has left some European leaders wondering where they're headed and why. Rob Reynolds, CNN, London.
Here in Britain, the newspapers set out their arguments on the vote in Denmark in their editorial pages. The Daily Telegraph said, the Danish referendum, once and for all, has introduced Europe à la carte. It is no longer a fixed menu. It is to be expected that Britain will now come under strong pressure also to change its order. The Independent cautioned that if there is a lesson to be drawn from the fiasco, it is the danger of governments getting ahead of their citizens. And the Times of London said, on its own, Denmark will not hold up the course of the EC's development. But what if Denmark has dared to express doubts harbored by silent minorities across Europe? The lesson is that economic and political integration do not march hand in hand.
And this other reaction from other EC countries, from the French newspaper Libération, this first referendum on the ratification of the Maastricht Treaty will simmer the consternation felt within the 11 other members of the EC, as well as those who aspire to membership in the EC. And from the German newspaper Die Tageszeitung, 35 years after its beginning in Rome, the European community has grown into an unresponsive, technocratic, and cumbersome structure whose uncontrollable power frightens citizens. Well, some of the stories still ahead. What the world thinks of the still undeclared presidential candidate, Ross Perot. We'll have a roundtable discussion with several international journalists.
And the dirty work communism left behind, how Czechoslovakia is coping with cleaning up its pollution-scarred landscape.
Summer on one of America's best beaches, Panama City Beach, Florida. Our beaches are rated among the best in America. 27 miles of snow white sand, emerald green waters, and they're still absolutely free. Call 1-800-PCB.
Panama City, Panama City, Panama City, Florida.
Behold the passion and pageantry of the noble warrior within. Armed with a snapper recycling mulcher mower with its 2x2 split-level blade. 2 blades for the way up, 2 blades for the way down. Their Ninja 2x2 blade cuts every blade of grass who knows how many times. It's also handy.